Amazon's Attack, issue 1, Josie Campbell writing with Vasco Georgiev, or Gorgiev?
Or Gorgiev.
Gorgiev?
Yeah, if it's like the the old goalie for the Rangers, it's Georgiev.
Of course.
So,
of course, that's why you have an idea how to pronounce it. It was.
the only reason I know how to pronounce certain Russian words is because of hockey. 100%.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So this is Josie Campbell and artist that we just mentioned. So this is very much a complimentary book to Wonder Woman in that it's set in the continuity. You know, the book starts with news reports talking about the massacre, the West Billings massacre, they're calling it, and the political climate with the Amazons being, like, you know, expelled out of the country. And I actually appreciated as well that there's a reasonable amount of recap on the title page. There's, you know, it recaps what happened in Wonder Woman 1 with the massacre, which is good. But there's even a nice little thing here where there's like just little recaps for all the recent things that have happened with Wonder Woman. So it mentions, okay, Hippolyta died, it mentions the coronation of Nubia, and points out that she's the leader of all the Amazon tribes, not just the Mascara. It was a nice little recap page. Like, I really thought this was a good idea. Because, you know, I'm coming into this, you know, as someone who, like, really likes the Wonder Woman book, and didn't like a lot of those tie-in Wonder Woman things that's been happening over the last year or two. So this was, and I like the writer of this book, which is why I was giving it a chance. So it was really nice just to get a nice quick recap of, like, here's the important details that have changed in the last couple of years. Now you can go. So yeah, it starts off with the Amazons telling Nubia about this attack in Canada, and they've got like a hologram of this woman that was caught on camera, who specifically wore a W, like Wonder Woman symbol, on her shirt to, I don't mean something, I guess. But it's like, hey, so now there's like these copycats that are claiming to be Themysciran. Whether or not they're actually Themysciran or Amazons is, you know, up for debate, because they specifically say this woman isn't. They say this woman's not an Amazon, but she's making it look like this is another Amazon terrorist attack, which after the massacre is obviously going to rile people up. And this has already got talks of Canada doing the same as the US and deporting any Amazons that are in Canada. So this public opinion starting to spread. It's not just the US. So that's a big driving force of this issue. Nubia is going to go meet with the president of the US to try and, like, sort something out peacefully. And she's going to go on her own, which does not please her girlfriend very much. No. But she does go. There's dual protests outside the building. Some who are there to support Amazon, some who are there to say get rid of them. And then there's a character who I think is supposed to be unsuperpowered, Mary Marvel, who, like, sort of says hi at the window. I didn't get that in the moment, though, because, you know, when she's a civilian, there's nothing about her that's distinct. She just looks like a, you know, a normal, you know, teenager.
Like, unless she's doing the Power Rangers thing where she was wearing red with yellow.
Yes,
you know?
yes, that would have told me. There's a reason why that color scheme bullshit works.
Yep, for sure.
It's a shorthand. But once she's in the building, a mysterious cloud starts to possess all the Secret Service and security guards, and they all start attacking her. And that's when the Amazon from the third tribe, who I can't even...
she's the queen. I can't remember. Queen Faruka from the Bana Migdal, right?
The Bana Migdal, yeah.
Right, and so we learned, I remember from reading, when I was still reading Wonder Woman, right, is that the Bana Migdal they actually take in regular women, right? So they're one of the tribes that they get built by accepting others that come and find them, right?
Which is cool, and they bring that up here. I actually really enjoy this idea of the three different tribes and them interacting here. I think it's a fun concept, even though I'm not as familiar with all these different tribes immediately. Of course, then Yara shows up as well, so we've got a representation from each of the three Amazon tribes. Yara's here because obviously she was sent because of those visions that the other woman
that the prophet had. Yeah.
So that ties into that little backup from Wonder Woman nicely. And then they all go diving out the window. There's a great 2-page spread of them falling out the top of this skyscraper. And luckily, Mary Marvel swoops in and grabs everyone. And that's how she gets involved into the story. And the way it's connecting her to this story, and I'd kind of, like, forgotten this or only vaguely knew about this, that her powers are kind of separate from the rest of the Shazam family now, because now she's getting still powers of the gods like Billy does from, you know, those characters. Yeah. But she's now getting powers from all of the gods of the Amazons. She's now taking her powers from them, so hers are kind of separate. She's got the female equivalent of the Shazam powers, which seems to still effectively, you know, give her the same things. But
it was the same. Yeah, I'm sure it's still strength and wisdom and all, but I'm sure they've worked out the letters to stand for different goddesses. Which I do like, because now it makes her part of the Amazonian thing too, as well, because they're pulling from their gods. And also, we like Josie Campbell writing Mary Marvel, so
we do. I mean, that was the main reason why I was excited to read this book, was that I liked that mini with Mary Marvel so much that this feels like a fun read. It flowed just as well as that book did, especially once the characters all started bouncing off each other at this point, where you know, the rabbits chiming in. Mary's reminding Yara that Billy asked her out on a date. And Yara's
and also the idea that they can also hear the rabbit.
Yes.
Right? It's not just for Mary now. So I like that.
Because
too.
it's Amazon power related. They can now hear it before no one could, other than Mary.
Right.
So fun stuff. And then they asked it to get the rabbit to teleport them, because the police are all starting to like aim and take shots. So the rabbit teleports them to Times Square, and they rightfully criticize this, because he says, this is the furthest away place I thought of. Like, you're still in the US. You couldn't have thought of, you know, Paris or, you know, Australia, you know, somewhere else on the planet. But this is what you thought of. But the issue ends with them all standing in Times Square, as there's news reports all over the screens in Times Square saying that they are wanted, that to the media, this looked like Nubia was trying to attack the president, because this fighting was happening when she was going to meet the president. So now it's like, no, these Amazons are all war criminals now, and they're all trying to start a war. And Nubia is pissed, because she was saying all issue. She was going to try and do this without starting any war. This was meant to be peaceful, and some third party has made them all look guilty of trying to start a fight, and now they're in the shit. So
so the idea of the title Amazon's Attack, because they've done that title for a bunch of stuff, and it's usually like Themyscira invading, or, you know, I'm trying to think what the other time was.
I was thinking this actually, because that title, like you say, has been used before. That the Amazons are a bit hypocritical, right? Whenever you start a Wonder Woman story, right, it's always the world demands awful, and they're always warring with each other, and it's all fighting. So I'm like, you know what? The more we read about the history of the Amazons and all the fighting you guys have been involved in, the less I'm convinced that you're any better, really.
Like, they couldn't even get along with one another. That's why there's 3 tribes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I do like the title stems from this incident at the end, where it seems like the Amazons attacked the U.S. president.
It's a lie.
All this is
it's
going
a political lie.
Yeah,
it's gaslighting the nation, is what it is.
Yes, yeah. So, but yeah, really enjoyed it, more than I thought I was going to. Right? Like,
yeah, it's interesting, because, you know, Superman in the past is like, he's this immigrant, and we've dealt with stories. Some of the best stories with Lex are him kind of trying to make the public think he's bad, and it kind of mirrors the demonization of the other. And I think that naturally extending to Wonder Woman with this new Tom King run makes so much sense, because Wonder Woman's people still exist and are still a whole, effectively a nation that can be demonized as an entire group. So I think using a group of people who are actively still a big group of people that are there to interact with, and there's victims of deportation in this hunting that's going on, like, it all just works together really well.
Well, and we're seeing the outside world start to get into Themyscira, right? Because they have all those boats for the press corps surrounding the island. We saw that.
Yeah.
I think that was in this one. It was either in this or the backup.
No, it was this one. Yeah, it was. There's like a perimeter of like all these like Navy ships that are just sort of like monitoring the island, and it's so you know, you're not even hidden anymore. You know.
Yeah, and so now that's bleeding into their world too. So now this one's coming back out, and you know, there's exchange, but not for the right, you know, reason, and that's kind of the whole reason that Diana left in the first place, right? It was to be this bridge between the Amazons and man's world. So it keeps doubling back on itself in the best way. And yeah, Josie Campbell really adept at handling all these different characters.
Yeah,
I would say too.
Yeah, I had a good time with this. It flows really well. I think the art's really solid. You know, despite not being able to pronounce his name, I think it's
Dasko Georgiev.
There you go. It's a really clean style that lends itself to some of these characters quite a bit. I think, you know, Mary looks great. I think Nubia looks great because Nubia's hair is kind of fantastic. Like it's almost like her cape, right? This long curly hair. It's like this sort of blanket that goes down behind her, and it's very distinct. Which is why when we see another character with very similar hair, we just kind of naturally think, is that Nubia? But she does look great. Whenever you get like a nice full shot of her like walking down a hallway or something, it contrasts. It's like a really nice backdrop to the blue and gold that she's typically wearing. So all that stuff looks great. The action looks good. There's some fun layouts. There's a page where they're going down like the big stairwell in the skyscraper. And it does this thing where it's got like sort of like weird angled kind of like panels coming in from the sides, and it kind of feels like we're going down in a spiral a little bit. No, really good. It's a really interesting companion to the main book, and I think it's interesting that, I mean, I don't know if Connor's tried Wonder Woman issue 1 yet, but we know that he's not read anything by Tom King in a long time. And I think it's really funny that he liked that Josie Campbell Mary Marvel book, so he probably wants to read this, but he's going to start it and realize that it's very heavily like sort of in the world that Tom King's created with the Wonder Woman book. And I think obviously a lot of the rest of DC is probably never going to mention the current status of like America versus the Amazons, but I like that there's this second Wonder Woman book now that can really sort of explore some of the effects of it the main book isn't going to have time to tackle.
And this just feels like a mini. It doesn't feel like an event, right? We're not tying in a bunch of other books, right? We're not going to get like Batgirl's Amazon Attack. So
no. I mean,
it can feel contained.
To be fair though, I don't think it is officially a mini though. It might technically be an ongoing.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think they've ever said that it's out of 6 or anything like that.
Oh, I just had assumed it was going to be a mini.
It feels like one, but hey, this might. Assuming they've got an idea of how this is going to tie into Wonder Woman for a while, this could end up going like 12 issues or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it just says part 1, The Doubting Queen. There's no of anything. Like,
it being tied to a very successful Wonder Woman book might keep it going for a while, to be honest. Yeah.
Right? Well, and also,
especially if King's like planning some big kind of, not an event, but some sort of big part of his run that this could naturally tie in more to. They might want to like have it around to sell as a secondary book.
The whole thing that if Wonder Woman's gonna be truly Diana's book, right? This Amazon's Attack, or if they ever rename or whatever, this can be the other characters too, right? Like this is where we can get the other Amazons popping up and us getting a piece of that world. So
yeah, plus they're doing a good job right now of trying to give all of the major characters, or the major families I should say, a second book at least, because you know Flash is getting that Speed Force book with some of the other characters. Green Lanterns had added the John Stewart book, and that's not to even mention all the Golden Age characters who are kind of like the third book in some of these families. So obviously action, you know, Batman and Superman have always had detective and action as well as Batman and Superman. They've always got at least 2 each, but I like this idea of like having the other characters in some of these groups getting a chance to like shine with second books. So
sure,
they're not always going to work out and be great, but I think this was a really solid first issue that I'm happy to. I'm definitely down for more of this, and I think so far it feels like a really nice tie-in to the main Wonder Woman book. So, good stuff. What are you rating Amazon's Attack?
I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, I think I agree with the 8. I think it's just a solid 8. I think it's a great little tie-in to the main book, and I'm genuinely, and it's nice to actually. I feel like Nubia is a character who's been kind of shafted to me, in that almost everything the character's been involved in, I've just not liked, just because I've not liked the writers, or I've not liked the events that she's been tied to over the last couple of years. It was actually kind of nice to read the character in this issue and go, no, I think I actually do kind of like this character. I've just never had a chance to before.
Yeah.